All right, I'm Matt Hill, curriculum designer at MRU, and this is day 2 of our inflation unit plan slides walkthrough. So I'm just going to go through the slides, sort of what we were thinking on each slide and how we were thinking this lesson sort of goes, at least from the slides perspective, so you know. All right, and so to motivate this particular day, what we're interested in here is thinking about the history of money, what kind of items might be used as money. You know, if you recall on day 1, we talked about the invention of money, like the functions that money serves, like how useful it is as a piece of technology. And again, we're trying to get students to sort of, you know, I think most people just view money as a given. Okay, we use these dollars, you know, they're just sort of always been around. But instead of that, rather think about, like, how did this develop? Like, this is a piece of technology that serves a certain purpose. That's day 1. And then day 2 is thinking about, all right, so what could we use as this piece of technology? So to motivate that, we can ask, hey, you know, we use dollars, but could we use honey buns? Could we use this delicious snack? Although, full disclosure, I've never had one. I don't know if they're actually delicious. I assume so. So could this be used? This is just sort of this is just a little joke. There's apparently honey bun is slang for 100,000. So this is, you can remove this slide if you want, but this is just, just to keep it light, that we're not talking about this slang term for $100,000. We're talking about actual honey buns. Keep going. Could we use mobile minutes as money? Now, this may take a little explanation for students that are not familiar with mobile minutes. Not sure if they're still a thing. But you used to have prepaid minutes in order to use your phone. And this is actually especially prevalent in the developing world. Could we use mobile minutes as money? And students can talk, because students can discuss this. Now, the answer to both these questions is yes, these are both actually used as money. So in prison, honey buns apparently at one time were used as money. Another example was, famously, cigarettes in prison were used as a form of currency. And airtime, like I said, in the developing world, for many places, they use mobile minutes as money. This is places where the existing currency can't be trusted or scarce. Mobile minutes are actually traded and swapped and used just like money is used. And again, the idea here is to get students thinking, like, okay, money doesn't necessarily have to be dollars. Like, it can't. There are lots of things that could possibly be money. And so we see with each of these examples, the honey buns and the prepaid minutes, they actually can fulfill the different functions of money. You can trade them, so they're a medium of exchange. Like, I could give you a bunch of honey buns and you can give me something else, or I can give you a SIM card with the prepaid minutes loaded into it. They're a store of value. They will keep. So both of these things will last a long time. In the case of honey buns, thanks to preservatives, I assume. I'm not a food scientist. And unit of account. Like, we can say, all right, this thing costs 1,000 minutes, or that'll cost you 5 honey buns. So they can be a unit account. We can have prices in both of these items. And so throughout history, we see all sorts of things being used as money. I put a few examples here on the slide: cigarettes, gold, chocolate. I believe the Aztecs used chocolates. Of course, we have unique shells were used in some societies. Cows are used as money. All different sorts of things have been used in money throughout history. You can just go ahead, you can actually Google it, or you can have it as an extra credit assignment. Go find some interesting money throughout history. But to be used as money, an item has to really fulfill these 4 characteristics. It has to be durable, has to be divisible or countable, portable, and scarce. Okay, now why is that? Well, it needs to be durable to be a store of value. If the thing is going to degrade or go away in some way or rot, then it's not a store of value. It has the same problem that we had in the last lecture with our beef. Like, it's going to go bad. So snowman, not going to be, although cute, not going to be we're not going to use this as money. Obviously, it'll go away. So the thing needs to last, be durable. It has to be divisible and countable. In order for us to have prices, we have to have basically the technical term is like fungible. You need to have, we need to say this costs 1,000 whatever honey buns, and each honey bun has to be identical. So precious metals work because you can have an ounce of gold, an ounce of silver, an ounce of platinum. They're all, the same. So we can divide it down. And countable. We have to be able to count this up. So for the example on the slides, like paintings you can't sell something for 4 paintings. It's not going to work. Paintings are different. They look different. They're different sizes. You need something that's basically identical. So in order for prices to make sense. So, okay, it needs to be durable, needs to be divisible and countable. Of course, it needs to be portable. We need to be able to move this from place to place. I'm going to go buy something. I need to be able to take the money there. So big, large items that are cumbersome to move are not going to work as money. Okay. And it has to be scarce. Obviously, money. We're trading the money for things of value. And so, if I can just make money, then the money itself will lose value. So it has to be an item that's relatively scarce that you just can't like make at home. So traditionally, precious metals will work, or a unique shell of some kind that just doesn't a shell that just doesn't wash up over and over again. It has to be like a specific shell that's really hard to find, or a specific metal like gold or silver that, again, it's not easy to come by. So with these different characteristics of money, durable, divisible, countable, portable, and scarce, we can see as we go around the world and look at different money in different societies through history, we can see that, yes, they usually fulfill all these criterias or all these characteristics. And if they don't, they usually some workaround. So there's a famous example that you may have heard of. The Isle of Yap uses these big stone coins that are like basically impossible to move as money. But they don't actually move the coins. They like write down who owns the coin. And so it sort of gets around the portability. All right. So we can, again, in the lecture with your students, with their student activity sheet, you can return to our 2 examples of money and say, okay, does it fulfill the characteristics? You can ask them, they can fill out, okay, does this really fulfill the characteristics? And yes, these items did fulfill the characteristics. That's why they're used as money within these special situations where other types of money aren't available. Of course, in prison, it's hard to come by, dollars. So prisoners have to use a different type of money. In the developing world, where the currency is unstable, they have to think of some other workaround, something else to use as money. And so both these items fulfill these characteristics, the characteristics of money. And so they have emerged in monies in this situation where, dollars or an official currency is not available. So both of them are durable, they'll last. They're divisible. We can figure out, okay, like I said, 1,000 honey buns, 1,000 mobile minutes. They're portable. You can move both these things. Honey buns, you may say, oh, honey buns not that portable. If I got to move 1,000 honey buns, what am I, I'm not going to do that. Okay, well, you're in prison. So it's not like you got to move the honey buns far. So within the context of prison, the honey bun is portable enough. And then scarce. Again, yeah, look, you can go buy a bunch of honey buns, but within the prison, it's not like there's an ample supply of honey buns. So these are all very scarce. These are scarce within their context. And, again, when you see an item used as money, it will fulfill these characteristics. Okay, so that's a backdrop. And in many ways, you may be, these first two days can complement each other, or that you can sort of, put them in the same day if you're going fast. We separated them just because we felt like, they were different enough, and we wanted to, we always think it's better to go slow through the material and have the students actually learn it than just kind of, zoom through to check it off. Okay, so once we've kind of understand money as, from the first day, we understand it's a piece of technology. We understand, okay, it's not predestined that we're going to use, what we currently use as money. That's all a backdrop for giving the history of how money developed into its current form, which is going to be very important when we go to learn about inflation. It's very important to understand where money comes from. Okay, so how do we get to our current money? Well, for most of human history, most societies that use commodity money. Okay, now what we mean by commodity money is the money has value in and of itself. I don't have to use it as money. I can use gold as gold, right? I can use the honey bun as a honey bun. I can eat the honey bun. And so, in our two previous examples of honey buns and mobile minutes are commodity money. You don't necessarily have to use it as money. You can use the mobile minutes to call somebody. They have value in and of itself. And the most famous, sort of primitive commodity money is gold, which can, of course, be used for other purposes besides money. Jewelry, teeth. I don't know what else you use gold for. I guess that's it. Electronics, use electronics, but I'm talking primitive times, but it has value in and of itself. All right. And so, without some sort of way to, trust each other, commodity money has, is very useful because look, if nobody takes my gold, I can always use it as gold. All right. So if we go back in many societies, money was a precious metal of some kind. And so again, this is a commodity money, has value in and of itself. Many societies recognize this thing as having value. And so money for much of human history was some form of precious metal. Lots of times gold, sometimes silver, but lots of times gold. We're to pause the lecture, or you would pause the lecture here to play this video where a chemist basically explains why gold is used. Like, why is gold the best of all the elements to be used as money? And again, it gets back to these characteristics. So this is a super fun video. Highly recommend it. It's actually unlisted on YouTube. I don't know why it's unlisted, but it's a great video that Slate produced many years ago. With an actual chemist kind of going through, hey, here's why gold, rules the world. Okay, so we start with gold. So most societies start with precious metal or specifically gold, but gold is heavy and other precious metals are heavy. They're annoying to move around. So what many societies develop is paper money backed by gold. What this means is the paper money is basically a receipt that you can trade for gold. The gold is kept somewhere, a bank or a money lender, and they issue you a piece of paper money that says, hey, it's like a claim check. Hey, I got your gold, and you can come to me anytime and just get your gold back. Now, this claim check, it's basically this paper money, is now portable. I can give it to you, and then you can go get the gold if you want to get the gold from, the guy that has my gold. And this then makes the money, basically it's just gold. We're still using gold, but now we've made it much more portable. I could take this claim check, this piece of paper money, wherever I go. All right. And, this is, developed before it's developed in Europe, it's developed in China. And there's this great passage from Marco Polo in his writings when he visits China about paper money, where he says, "Foretell it how I might, you never would be satisfied that I was keeping within truth and reason." Okay, which is a really old-timey, fancy way of saying, like, hey, you're not going to believe me when I tell you about this paper money. This paper money is crazy because, if you're not familiar with paper money, it's very strange because it seems like it's worthless. You're like, what are these people doing? This is crazy. They're exchanging a piece of paper for something of value. Like, why would you do this? Like, how does this work? So, if you encountered it coming from a background of like exchanging gold and silver, things that obviously have value, to a society where they're exchanging paper, you're like, what is going on? This is blowing my mind. What's going on right now? That's basically Marco Polo's reaction. But of course, this sort of paper money is, adopted in more and more societies. And this is basically the norm in the 1800s into the 1900s, that we're essentially using paper money, but the paper money is backed by gold. We can trade our paper money to the government for gold if we like. In the 20th century, we develop what's called fiat money. Now, the money cannot be traded for gold. Now, the money basically has the only value of it is just because basically the government's backing it. The government is saying that it has value, and we sort of all believe that it has value. So the fiat money only works because we all just agree. It's like a collective belief that the money has value. So in the 20th century, governments move away from the gold standard. So before, when they're on the gold standard, they would say, okay, you could take your money, come to us, we'll give you gold for it. We got to keep a lot of gold. This is why the US has Fort Knox with all the gold. We got to have a lot of gold, but don't worry, we have enough gold to back the paper currency that's out there. In the 20th century, they say, okay, we're not going to do that. All right. Again, this happens for a variety of reasons. Primarily, many economic historians believe that essentially being on the gold standard exacerbated the Great Depression, or basically turned a recession into the Great Depression. And so fiat money has lots of advantages in terms of managing the overall economy. That's a little above the pay grade of this lecture. You don't need to necessarily go into that. I'm just sort of giving you that background. So the US basically formally moves off the gold standard in 1971, although they had basically been off it since the Great Depression. Okay, so now we have fiat money. All right, so basically this sort of tells you how we've gotten to the present. So again, money would seem very weird to someone who's not familiar with it. Like if we were to take somebody from, say, I don't know, 5,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, and bring them to the present, they're like, what's going on here? They're exchanging paper money, this worthless pieces of paper, for things that you actually want. This is how we got to that point. We started with commodity money, something that had value. We moved to paper money, but backed by that commodity. Then we just got rid of the commodity and said, okay, now we're just using the paper. All right. Now, the difficult thing here is the group that's in charge of the paper money has to be careful to maintain the trust. They have to be careful. Remember our characteristics of money. They have to be careful to make sure the money remains scarce. So that's usually the central bank in a country that's in charge of the money supply. They're in charge of these paper dollars or paper money. But as we move to the 21st century, things get even crazier, because now, I don't know about you, but I barely ever walk around with paper money. Now our money is primarily digital, now. So it's, it's kept in my bank account, a bunch of ones and zeros, says I have this amount of money. And when I go and buy something, I swipe a card, or I have an Apple Pay or something like that. I actually don't have Apple Pay, but whatever. I've seen people use it. And the ones and zeros just go to the seller. So most of our money now is digital dollars. It's purely, in the ether. So we have the stat, about 90% of dollars only exist digitally, meaning there's actually not enough paper money to back all the dollars in bank accounts. And many transactions are now digital as well. I forget the exact number, 70% or something like that of transactions are just purely digital. Okay. And so now we're in this very strange situation where the money is sort of just going through the air, ones and zeros. It only works because we all just believe these ones and zeros have value. But, backing up, again, we just look at it that way. It seems very strange, but backing up, this is an incredible piece of technology. You can go basically, as long as you have a credit card or access to your account or your phone, you can go anywhere basically and buy something. So the money is incredibly portable. The transactions take, milliseconds. Now, on the back end, like it takes a while for things to clear, but when you go and buy a cup of coffee, it takes like no time at all. Checking out the supermarket, I don't know if you're me, when you're checking out the supermarket, and somebody pulls out cash, you're like, oh, come on, really? Cash? You gotta count this all out? Swipe a card, super easy. And so we've basically progressed to a form where, these digital dollars are incredibly convenient. Okay. And again, you can ask your students to fill out this table to think, all right, these are sort of the evolution of money from precious metal to paper dollars to digital dollars. Like, where's the improvement? Are they more durable? Are they more countable? Like, where are the improvements taking place? This is sort of our answers. We think that, basically all of these are fairly durable. Depending on how much you trust the bank, digital dollars are the most durable, and that, paper wears down, precious metals also wear down. This is actually, if you know history, like the second half of Isaac Newton's life is basically devoted to, trying to make sure that the silver in the UK, wasn't wearing down, the coins they were using. So as long as you trust the bank and like the servers, like the digital dollar is incredibly durable, countable. Both paper dollars and digital dollars are actually more countable than precious metal. Precious metal kind of a hassle in terms of you got to weigh it, that sort of thing. And so, this is much better in terms of the countable. Portable, as I was mentioning, at each step, the money got more portable. Now, this is where this day sets up the rest of the unit. Is it more scarce? Okay. Is the money we're using actually more scarce? So precious metal, very scarce. Paper dollar that stands for the precious metal, theoretically just as scarce, although there's lots of sort of just fraud and scams that happened with paper dollars. Digital dollars theoretically can be created with, the touch of a button. So, maybe it is not as scarce. And this leads, this sort of sets the stage for the later days about inflation. Okay. Because these digital dollars have many advantages. As a piece of technology, they're leaps and bounds improvement over the precious metal. But the potential issue is it still scarce? So the central bank, when you have fiat money, the central bank can create money whenever they like. And so it's very important that the central bank resist that temptation to create too much money. Because if you could look, if I could push a button and money came out, you're pushing that button all day long. That's basically how the central bank works. They could push a button and create money. But they have to be very careful, because of course the money will devalue. And that's sort of what the next couple of days are about. That's inflation. When you have too much money and the money goes down in value, meaning prices go up, that's inflation. And that's what we will be talking about. All right, here's another meme for you. A meme that you'll see all over the internet oftentimes with respect to central banks. They basically have the money printer and they can print the money up whenever they want. Okay, and so that will lead into the next couple days. Exit ticket here. Ask your students 2 things you learned about money. And again, as I go through these slides, if you look at the lesson plan, I'm just going through the slides, but the lesson plan has lots of breaks. So, we break for the video, we break for the students, working through various tables in the activity sheet that you see reflected in the slides. So, these videos are just meant as, hey, here's what we're thinking with each slide.
If you don't already have the unit plan, there's a link on screen. Or if you'd like to move to the next day, check out the next walkthrough video.